After 9 years, 42 episodes, and countless debates about whether the Mind Flayer or Vecna was truly in control, Stranger Things has closed its final gate. The series that defined Netflix's golden age has delivered its final chapter, and the story with it, a revelation that fundamentally changes everything we thought we knew about the Upside Down. What began as a nostalgic homage to Spielberg and King in 2016 became a cultural phenomenon that transcended its 80s pastiche to tell a story about friendship, trauma, and the monsters that hide in the spaces between dimensions. But as the dust settles on Hawkins, Indiana, and we process the ambiguous fate of 11, one question remains. Did Stranger Things answer all the mysteries it set up, or did it leave us with more questions than closure? For nearly a decade, Stranger Things led us to believe that the Upside Down was an alternate dimension, a dark mirror of Hawkins, where demogorgons prowled and ash fell like toxic snow. We watched Will Byers vanish into its depths in 1983. We saw 11 open gates with her powers. We assumed this shady realm was another world, parallel to our own. We were wrong about everything. In its final season, Stranger Things pulled back the curtain on its central mystery with a revelation so massive it retroactively reframed the entire series. The Upside Down is not another dimension at all. It's a wormhole, a bridge connecting 2 points in space and time. On one end sits Hawkins, Indiana. On the other end lies something far more terrifying, the Abyss. When Dustin Henderson discovered this truth in Dr. Brenner's journals, he drew a diagram to explain it, a simple illustration showing a cylinder with circles at both ends. The Upside Down, he revealed, is the tunnel itself, an interdimensional bridge held together by exotic matter, that mysterious sphere of energy floating above Hawkins' lab. This unstable wormhole is what our heroes have been fighting through all along, never realizing it was just merely a passageway to something worse. The Abyss is the true source of all the horror. This chaotic realm, named after the plane of pure evil in Dungeons & Dragons, is characterized by desolate landscapes, steep canyons, sharp rocks jutting at impossible angles, and a scorched yellow sky. It's the home of the Demogorgons, the Demobats, the Vines, and most importantly, the Mind Flayer itself. Everything that crawled into Hawkins came from the Abyss, using the Upside Down as their highway into our world. The relationship between these dimensions is vertical. The ceiling of the Upside Down serves as the floor of the Abyss. When Holly Wheeler fell through a portal in the sky of the Upside Down after jumping through a hole in the Abyss, it confirmed this stacked cosmology, 3 layers of reality pressed against each other like a dimensional sandwich. The reason that the Upside Down looks like Hawkins, frozen on November 6, 1983, is because it exists as the friction point where the wormhole pushes against the physical world. It's not a copy of our reality, but rather an impression left behind when dimensions collide, like a thumb pressed into wet clay. If you've made it this far and are enjoying what you've seen and heard, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. The story of the Abyss's connection to our world begins long before 11 was born, stretching back to World War II and a series of failed government experiments that would set everything in motion. In 1943, a classified United States government experiment went catastrophically wrong, accidentally exposing the existence of the Abyss and the life within it. This experiment, which would later inform Dr. Brenner's obsession, was the first human contact with a dimension beyond our own. The details remain murky, but the consequences would echo through decades. Fast forward to 1953. In Nevada, a young boy named Henry Creel, only 8 years old, stumbled upon something that would change his life forever. In the cave system near a military base in Lincoln County, Henry encountered a wounded man, a Russian spy who had stolen something from the facility. This man carried a briefcase containing a stone of compressed Mind Flayer particles, a piece of the Abyss itself, glowing with malevolent energy. When young Henry opened the briefcase, black particles rose from the stone and seeped into an open wound on his left hand. In that moment, Henry Creel was flayed, infected by the Mind Flayer. The particles altered his biology, changed his blood type, and granted him psychic powers. More importantly, they corrupted his mind, blocking his memory of the truth and planting seeds that would grow into something monstrous. The Mind Flayer spoke to him from across dimensions. "Find me." In 1959, the Creel family moved to Hawkins, Indiana, hoping a fresh start would help Henry overcome his troubled past. It didn't. Henry's powers had been growing, and motivated by the malign influence festering inside him, he used those abilities to psychologically torture his family. The house on Moorhead Street became a chamber of horrors. Eventually, Henry killed his mother Virginia and his sister Alice, staging it to look like his father Victor was responsible. Henry fell into a coma, and when he woke, Dr. Martin Brenner was waiting. Brenner took Henry into the Hawkins lab program, seeing in the boy's abilities the key to his own obsession. Henry became test subject number 1, the prototype for all of Brenner's subsequent experiments. Over the years, Brenner used Henry's unique blood to create more children with psychic powers, each given a number and subjected to brutal training. Henry, now going by the name Peter Ballard, worked as an orderly at the lab, befriending many of the children while secretly despising the entire project. On September 8, 1979, Henry's true nature emerged. He revealed himself to Eleven, trying to convince her to join him in destroying humanity, which he viewed as a diseased species beyond redemption. When Eleven refused and overpowered him using a memory of her mother's love, she tore open a rift and banished Henry from our world. But she didn't send him to the Upside Down because the Upside Down didn't exist yet. She sent him to the Abyss. Henry fell through dimensional space, landing in that desolate realm where the Mind Flayer waited. The Abyss's toxic atmosphere and abnormal lighting gradually disfigured him, burning away his humanity until he transformed into the being who would become known as Vecna. There, in the heart of that alien world, Henry encountered the Mind Flayer in its true form, a massive tree-like structure of shadow and particles. Some believe Vecna shaped the Mind Flayer to his will, but the truth was far more disturbing. As Henry himself would later reveal, quote, "I could have resisted it, but I chose to join it. It needs me, and I need it. We are one," end quote. Vecna would have remained lost in the Abyss forever if not for Brenner's obsession. The Doctor became fixated on finding Henry, pushing Eleven to use her powers to psychically search for life in other dimensions. For years, Eleven tried and failed, reaching out into the void, finding nothing. Then came November 6, 1983. On that fateful day, Eleven finally made contact in the sensory deprivation tank. She encountered a creature from the Abyss, a Demogorgon, feeding on a large yellow egg. When Eleven touched that creature psychically, she unknowingly touched Vecna's hive mind as well, and Henry, on the other side of reality, seized the opportunity. In that moment of contact, the wormhole formed. A gate cracked open in the tank room wall, but it didn't lead to the Abyss directly. Instead, it created something new, the Upside Down, a bridge between worlds, a tunnel through space and time. The exotic matter that held it together crystallized around the connection, stabilizing what should have been an impossibly unstable structure. Hawkins became the anchor point. Its geography copied and froze at the exact moment, creating the dark reflection our heroes would come to know and fear. From that day forward, Vecna and his monsters used the Upside Down as their invasion route into Hawkins. The Mind Flayer's influence bled through. Will Byers was taken, becoming the first human to experience the hive mind's corruption. The events that would define the next decade of Hawkins' history all stemmed from that single moment of contact. The relationship between Henry Creel, also known as One, also known as Vecna, and the Mind Flayer represent one of Stranger Things' most complex mysteries, one the finale attempted to clarify while leaving room for interpretation. Through the series, particularly in Season 4, viewers were led to believe that Vecna had discovered the Mind Flayer in the Abyss and shaped it to his will, that the spider-like entity we saw terrorizing Hawkins was Henry's creation, his weapon against humanity. But the final season revealed a darker truth. Henry didn't create the Mind Flayer. The Mind Flayer created Henry. As Will Byers discovered when he witnessed Henry's memories, the young boy who opened that briefcase in 1953 was just another victim. The Mind Flayer's particles infected him, corrupted him, used him as a vessel to bridge the gap between dimensions. For years, Henry believed he was in control, that his hatred of humanity was his own, that his powers made him special. He was wrong. The Mind Flayer had been manipulating him from the beginning, showing him what it called the truth of the world, blocking his memories of the cave, planting the seeds of misanthropy that would blossom into genocide. But here's where it gets complicated. As Henry tells Will in their final confrontation, he had a choice. He could have resisted the Mind Flayer's influence. He could have fought back, as Will himself did when he was possessed. But Henry didn't want to resist. He embraced the darkness inside him. He chose to become one with the entity that infected him. It's a twisted symbiosis, neither fully controlling the other. They need each other. Henry provides the intelligence, the strategy, the human understanding of how to hurt and manipulate people. The Mind Flayer provides the power, the vast psychic network that connects all life in the abyss. This connection manifests through the hive mind, a collective telepathic intelligence linking all creatures in both the Upside Down and the abyss. When Vecna connects to the vines in the Creel house, lifting him up in the air, he enters a meditative state that allows him to access this network, to see through the eyes of the Demogorgons and Demobats, to physically connect with victims in our world, and to open gates from within the Upside Down itself. The hive mind is how Vecna learned to kill, by forming powerful psychic connections that traumatized individuals. Max Mayfield, Chrissy Cunningham, Fred Benson, Patrick McKinney. He could reach across dimensions and crush them from within, using their deaths to tear new rifts between worlds. Each victim's trauma became a doorway, and with 4 deaths, Vecna opened 4 gates that converged on Hawkins, weakening the barrier between Earth and the abyss. But Vecna's ultimate plan required more than death. He needed 12 children, 12 vessels he could control, connected to his hive mind. With these children synchronized in a trance, channeling massive psychic energy, Vecna intended to fracture both ends of the wormhole, pulling the abyss through the Upside Down and forcing it to merge with our world. The convergence would obliterate Earth, or at the very least, terraform it into a realm of monsters. In the finale, when Eleven, Max, and Callie entered Vecna's memories to confront him, they discovered the truth about the cave, about the briefcase, and the moment Henry became infected. They showed him what the Mind Flayer had done to him, tried to reach the frightened boy who once ran from the cave in terror, but Henry refused to see himself as a victim. He had long ago accepted what he'd become. The battle that followed saw 11 tear Vecna free from the Mind Flayer's tendrils, while the rest of the party attacked the entity itself. The two-way connection between Vecna and the Mind Flayer meant that weakening one weakened the other. Will used his own connection to the hive mind, gained during his time in the Upside Down, to restrain Vecna, snapping off his left hand. 11 impaled him on a spike, and Joyce Byers delivered the final blow, beheading Vecna with an axe in a moment of maternal fury that bookended her journey from the terrified mother searching for Will in Season 1. With Vecna dead and the Mind Flayer destroyed, Hopper's C4 detonated in the Upside Down. The exotic matter holding the wormhole together was obliterated. The bridge collapsed, the Upside Down ceased to exist, and with it, the connection to the abyss was severed. Despite its definitive ending, Stranger Things left several threads dangling, questions that continue to haunt fans even after the credits rolled. First and foremost, is 11 still alive? The finale's most ambiguous moment comes when the military arrives as the Upside Down explodes. 11 appears to stand at the threshold, accepting her fate, apparently destroyed along with the dimensional bridge, but Mike refuses to believe it. In the epilogue, during their final Dungeons & Dragons game, he theorizes that Callie, with her dying breath, created an illusion of 11 standing at the portal, while the real Elle escaped. We see a vision of Elle hiking through mountains, reaching waterfalls, finding peace away from those who would use her powers. But the Duffer Brothers deliberately left it unclear whether this is true or Mike's wishful thinking, a story he's choosing to believe. 11's fate remains Stranger Things' greatest mystery. Who was the man that Henry killed in the mine shaft? We see the Russian spy, wounded and desperate, clutching his briefcase as young Henry approaches. The man seems to be trying to protect what's inside, or perhaps trying to warn Henry away. He speaks before Henry kills him with his newfound powers, but we'd never learn his full story. Was he trying to weaponize the Mind Flayer particles? Was he trying to destroy them? What were his intentions with the stolen Abyss material? Who was chasing the man in the mine shaft? The scene suggests someone or something was pursuing the Russian spy into the caves. Was it military personnel from the base, other Russian agents, something from the Abyss that had already broken through? The show never clarifies who drove the man to the cave system where Henry found him. How did that rock from the Abyss end up in the man's suitcase? The timeline suggests the 1943 government experiment exposed the existence of the Abyss, and by 1953, the military base had enough material from that dimension to study it. But how did they obtain it? How did they extract matter from another dimension without opening a stable gate? How did someone travel to the abyss and return? Were there earlier, smaller breaches? The mechanism remains unexplained. Would Henry and Eleven's powers cease if all connections to the abyss were closed? This question strikes at the heart of how psychic abilities work in Stranger Things. Henry's powers originated from Mind Flayer particles entering his bloodstream. Eleven's powers came from being created using Henry's unique blood. If the source of all power is the abyss, and the abyss is now cut off from Earth, does that mean that all psychic abilities should vanish? The fact that other children like Callie had powers suggests that something more fundamental is at play, but the series never addresses whether closing the gate also sealed off the source of supernatural abilities. Are there more like 11 in the world? Callie, number 8, proves that at least one other test subject survived beyond the 1979 massacre. The finale confirms that she exists, but ultimately kills her off, ending the storyline. But Dr. Brunner's program ran for years, and his obsession with creating psychic children didn't begin and end with Hawkins' lab. Could there be other facilities, other programs, other numbered children out there with powers? The show hints at a broader conspiracy, but never fully explores its scope. Are there other dimensions beyond the abyss? The revelation that the Upside Down was a wormhole and the abyss was a separate dimension raises profound cosmological questions. If one alternate dimension exists, why not more? The Mind Flayer came from somewhere. The exotic matter that held the wormhole together had to originate from something. Is the abyss just one of many planes of existence? Could there be other entities, other monsters, other Mind Flayers waiting in the spaces between realities? Stranger Things establishes a multiverse, but only explores one small corner of it. How was the connection to the abyss opened to begin with? The 1943 experiment is mentioned but never shown or explained. What were they trying to do? How did they accidentally expose the abyss's existence? Was it a nuclear test gone wrong? An attempt at interdimensional travel? A psychic experiment that spiraled out of control? The origin point of humanity's contact with the abyss remains frustratingly vague, a foundation built on implications rather than concrete details. Stranger Things changed television. It proved that streaming platforms could create cultural phenomena that rivaled anything on traditional networks. It launched careers, revived Kate Bush's chart position, and made the 1980s cool again for a generation that never lived through them. The first season's intimate horror, 4 kids searching for their missing friend in a small Indiana town, captured lightning in a bottle. But as the series expanded, it struggled with its own success. The cast grew too large. The stakes escalated beyond the point where defeat felt possible. The intimate became epic, and something essential was lost in the translation. By season 5, Stranger Things had transformed into a superhero spectacle, complete with CGI battles and world-ending threats, a far cry from the quiet horror of a flickering Christmas light alphabet. The finale embodies these contradictions. It delivers spectacular action, emotional goodbyes, and shocking revelations about the Upside Down's true nature. It gives most characters satisfying endings, Nancy pursuing journalism, Steve teaching and coaching in the suburbs, Jonathan studying film at NYU, Robin finding herself at college, and Joyce and Hopper finally getting their happy ending in Montauk. The core friend group graduates, playing one last game of Dungeons & Dragons, and moves forward with their lives. But it also leaves too much unexplored, relies too heavily on the Broadway play for a critical backstory, and renders its central heroine's fate deliberately ambiguous in a way that feels less like artistic choice and more like hedging bets. The questions it leaves unanswered feels less like intentional mystery and more like threads the writers ran out of time to tie. In the end, Stranger Things is a series about the stories we tell ourselves. Mike's theory about Eleven's survival is exactly that, a story, a narrative he constructs to make sense of loss. It's fitting then that the show concludes with another story, a Dungeons & Dragons campaign where the wizard who traveled between worlds finds peace at last. Whether the story is true or not matters less than the fact that Mike, Dustin, Will, Lucas, and Max need it to be true. The revelation about the abyss and the Upside Down recontextualizes everything. Every gate opened, every monster fought, Every loss suffered traces back to that moment in 1953 when a frightened boy opened a briefcase in a cave. Henry Creel was not the villain of Stranger Things. He was the first victim, corrupted by something ancient and evil, used as a bridge between worlds. The real villain was always the Mind Flayer, patient and vast, waiting in the abyss for someone to open the door. And the true horror, Henry chose it. He could have fought. He could have resisted, but he looked at the darkness inside him and said yes. He embraced the monster, and in doing so, he nearly destroyed everything. Hawkins survived. The gates are closed. The Upside Down is gone, but the cost was high. Callie died. 11 vanished, and the scars left on those who survived will never fully heal. That's the real legacy of Stranger Things. Not the Demogorgons or the Mind Flayer, but the trauma of growing up in a world where monsters are real, where friends can be lost, and where sometimes even winning feels like loss. The lights in the Wheeler basement are off now. The Christmas light alphabet has been taken down. Holly and her friends rush down the stairs for their first campaign, a new generation ready to fight imaginary monsters, blissfully unaware of how real those monsters once were. And somewhere, maybe in the mountains by a waterfall, or maybe nowhere at all, a girl with a shaved head and the power to move things with her mind finally rests. The story is over. The gate is closed. The right side is up again. But the quiet moments when the lights flicker or static fills the air, the kids who save the world will always wonder, what if that door opens again? What if there are other abysses, other Mind Flayers, other Henrys waiting to be corrupted? What if closing one gate simply means another will eventually open? Those questions don't have answers. They're not supposed to, because that's what growing up means. Learning to live with uncertainty, with doors that might open, with monsters that might return. Stranger Things ended, but the fear that inspired it, the fear of the unknown lurking just beyond sight, will never truly go away. And maybe that's the point. If you're a fan of Stranger Things and have followed the series, I want to read your thoughts and start a discussion in the comments below. This has been 3PC, Past Present Pop Culture. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.